Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Custom Carving and Epoxy UK, and today I'm going to be doing a slightly different video because my daughter actually gave me this mould because she used to be into resin and she's not anymore, and to me it looks like a dragon, and I've not actually done this mould yet. I've measured it with water and I think it takes about 3.5 ounces of resin, but I thought it'd be cool to just try and see if I can get a slightly different effect in this mould using some chameleon mica powders and actually painting them into the mould to see how much detail I can actually emphasize, because they look really detailed, but as I say, it's my first time with this mould, and so don't judge me if it doesn't come out right, but I just thought it was such a detailed mould. So what I'm going to be using is, sorry, I've just noticed a little bit of something in there which I'm trying to get out. I think it's probably glitter from the last time she used the mould. But yeah, so if you look at it, there is so much detail. And I'm thinking if I can use these chameleon powders with a bit of alcohol and actually paint some of that detail in, we could get a really cool design. And then what I'm going to do is, rather than fill it with clear, I'm going to use this purple sort of metallic pigment paste I've got as well, just to further emphasize it as a dragon. So not going to go too crazy here, but I am going to use two different chameleon mica powders on different parts, probably three actually. So I'm going to go for this blue effect, which is the standard blue. I want something a little bit lighter as well. Not green. I don't know why, I don't like green in dragons. So I'm just going through. Maybe this plum, actually, for the wings. And, or do I do it in Galaxy? I do like Galaxy. No, I'm not. I'm going to stick with what I've gone with. And then I'm going to use this olive because it actually looks a little bit white, just to emphasize the bones, or the scales as it were, as I see them. And actually, if you're going to try and if you're going to try and just do this with a makeup brush or something, it gets crazy hard to get it in the spaces. So what I have seen a video is just by painting it on, you can get usually more into those details. So what I'm going to try and do is this spine bit here that goes all the way around, and then you've got these little spiny bits here on the head. So I'm going to try and get some of this whiter olive in so it looks a little bit like both. Few camera issues there with the tripod as I'm getting the alcohol, because that actually weighs up my tripod stand. But all I'm going to use here is isopropyl alcohol 99%. Make sure you've got gloves and a respirator on as well, because you don't want alcohol, you don't want resin fumes or anything like that going into your lungs. And I'm just going to pour a tiny bit into this cup, so I've got some alcohol ready to go, and hopefully paint on the mica. Anything extra I can pour back in anyway. So that is my alcohol. And don't do what I just did if you've got your alcohol weighing down your tripod and lift it up and forget everything. So there we go. So now the stand's back in order, we're back. So apologies for that. So what I'm going to do now is, just as you can see, these little areas here where the spine is just try and paint a little bit of this mica powder, this olive one from Let's Resin in there, because I think it will give almost a bone or a sort of a lighter effect than the other mica powders. And as I say, I've never done this mold before, so I don't know what it is gonna look like, but we will see. So I'm just going to pour the tiniest bit of alcohol in this spare coaster mold I've got here. Nothing crazy, just a few drops, because I think that's all I'll need. And then I'm going to add some of this chameleon powder to the alcohol. And as you can see, it's almost a greeny white, this olive. Quite a lot, so I want it like a bit like a paste, I suppose. And then I'm just going to try and get that on my brush as much as I can, and then try to actually paint it into the areas that I actually want it. I don't know if this is going to work. As I say, I've seen it work on other people's videos. Doesn't mean it's going to work on mine. But it just gives you a little bit more detail. If I was just using the mica powder at the minute, it would be going absolutely all over the place, and it wouldn't give me any control over where it's going. And I'm not looking for a completely covered effect, but I just want this effect, so hopefully it'll give us a bit of different dimensions in the dragon when it's done. And as soon as you pour that alcohol onto your mica powder, it really does dry up so quickly, as you can see here. But I'm just trying to get it initially on that spine, so we get that sort of spine effect. And then I'm probably going to do a little bit more as well, just, as you can see, it dissolves really quickly just on these little bits here, because I think for me they look like they're almost little spines coming out of the dragon's head. So just going to go for a little bit more because I want it to be a little bit more opaque than the look I'm getting at the minute. And again, just mixing that in with the alcohol, creating almost a paint paste, I suppose it is. But you want to be quick because the alcohol does dissolve really quickly. And I don't know if this is going to work or not. I'll say it's my first time using this mould, and it's my first time trying this technique. But I just thought it'd be a fun little experiment. I've got the mould. I've never used it before, and I just thought it might give us a different kind of effect for this dragon. Hopefully, when the resin cures. And the only reason I'm doing it with the alcohol is, as I say, it stops the powder going absolutely everywhere, which otherwise it would. And it can be an absolute pain when you're trying to do these moulds. But I'm pretty happy with the way it's going on. And it's never going to be perfect, don't get me wrong, because I'm doing it with a little brush like this. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I might use it for these claws as well. And all I'm doing is just painting it around those areas. And hopefully that will highlight some of that detail in the mould when we pour the resin. But we'll see. Don't forget, guys, if you do like the content as well, please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Makes a big difference. Right, so the next thing on this little mould that I'm going to try and do is here and here, I think, are where the wings are. So I want the wings to be a slightly different colour to the rest of it. And I'm going to do the wings with this blue chameleon powder. Maybe the head as well. So the wings and the head in the blue, and then the rest of it in this sort of pinkish colour. So again, just a few drops of the alcohol over here, and then I'm going to add some of this blue chameleon powder. Not too much, that should be enough. And then just mix it with the alcohol to create almost that mica powder paste. And I'm loving the colour. So I'm just going to try and get this in the wings, if that's what they are. I'm presuming that's what they are, just looking at the mould. And as I say, I've not done this mould before, so actually once I've done one, it might give me a bit of a better idea of all the details that are actually on it. But I think to me this looks a bit like a wing, so I'm just painting it on to give me that slightly different colour texture once we add the resin. And it doesn't have to be perfect, guys. Hopefully, no matter what you do to it, it's going to come out really cool because those details are actually in the mold itself. So that is that wing. And then the other wing is inside here. So I'm just going to try and get some blue on there as well. And get it all the way into the nooks and crannies. But it is actually really hard to tell when you've not done a mold before as to what the details are, especially when it's so intricate like this dragon. But I'm hoping I've got it right and that these are wings. We will find out when we demold. Yeah, it looks really cool, some of those details. And then I'm going to add some of this around this head area and hopefully gives a slightly different effect. So the head actually goes around the sides, and I know there is an eye in there, but if I'm being honest, I don't have any eyes ready made up that are that size. So I'm just, for this first one, just going to continue going around like I am at the minute and seeing what we come out with. And I'm trying to figure out if that there is the claw or that is on the end of the wing. Don't know, but we'll see. As I say, the great thing is once I've done one, I'll see the mold, I'll see all of the designs, and hopefully it'll give me a better idea for the next run. So happy with that. And then I'm just going to use the pinkish one for the rest of the scale effects. And don't forget, by using this purple as well, we're going to get an underlying colour of purple, which I think will bring it all together nicely. So again, just a few drops of the alcohol and some of this plum mica powder. Oops, and that's a bit much, but there we go. Don't do what I do, use a little scoop or a popsicle stick. It'll make sure you don't waste it, but always wipe off your brush in between as well, otherwise you lose that effect that you're trying to get. And I'm probably going to need, in fact we might be okay actually. I was going to say we might need some more alcohol with this, but it looks okay to me. And now what I'm going to try and do is, inside the mold you can see these little scaly parts, so I'm just going to go over those with this plum colour, and hopefully that'll emphasise the detail in the mould on those areas. So I don't know, is this going to work or not? That is the question, and we won't know that until tomorrow. But I love the detail in it, and I'm hoping that it's going to give us some really cool effects, especially by painting these different sort of chameleon powders on there. And by using the different tones and the different colours, I'm hoping it will give us a real nice effect on the overall piece. I'm being quite liberal with this because I do want it to have the effect all the way around. And I think if I scrimp on it, it's not going to have it. So again, just trying to cover all of the pieces of the mould before we actually add the resin. And I'm loving the details that are showing just by adding and painting this mould with the chameleon colours. And hopefully the ones that I've already put down will still shine through once everything's done. But I just want to make sure that every part of the mould has been painted before we move on to the next step, which will be the resin. And maybe actually, because of the blue hasn't fully saturated, I'm going to put a bit of the purple around the blue as well and sort of mix them in the head and see what happens with that. So that's sort of the blue and the purple mixed. And because these are just the chameleon powders, you don't actually see the full result until you've added your resin. You've got sort of that darkish tone behind it, which really makes them pop. But there we go. That's sort of 10 minutes I've spent painting this mould with these different chameleon colours to hopefully get a slightly different effect rather than what we would have got if we'd have just filled it with resin. But I'm pretty happy with this so far. And you can, as you paint it, you can actually feel the mica powders actually sticking to the mould as the alcohol dissolves completely. But that is what I'm left with. So the whole mould now has been painted. Hopefully I can get you a slightly clearer picture with those different chameleon powders. Now what I'm going to do is mix up, I think it was 3.5 ounces for this, so I'm going to do 3.5 ounces of resin. I'm just going to be using the Let's Resin 1:1. Then I'm going to put it in my bubble removal machine to try and get as many bubbles out of the resin before I pour, and then I'm just going to mix in the metallic paste and see what happens. But the great thing is once you've done with it, that can just be washed out because that's just alcohol and mica powder. So I'm pretty happy with where we are at the minute. I think there's enough of those colours in there to hopefully highlight some of those details. And now I'm just going to, as I say, get the resin mixed and put it in the debubbler. I'll come back to you in a second. So I've actually done 4 ounces just to be safe, because I think it's somewhere between 3.5 ounces and 4 ounces. And all I'm going to do is mix the resin using one of these popsicle sticks. And if you're new to mixing resin, all you want is for it to go from this sort of streaky consistency there into a much clearer consistency. So as you can see, that is all streaky and horrible at the moment. So I'm going to stir it normally about 4 to 5 minutes, I would say, and you want to be doing it at a reasonable pace, not too fast, not too slow, until it goes completely clear. Then I'm going to put it in my bubble removal machine from Resiners. If you haven't got one, I highly recommend them. And for the money, since I've started using one, I've had no problems with bubbles, and I'll show you just how clear the resin gets actually in a minute once I've done it. But it removes all of those bubbles. When you are mixing your resin as well, make sure you stir around the sides a few times and the base so that you don't get any bits that haven't mixed in your finished piece. And you're wanting a crystal clear consistency. Once you're there, you'll know because there's no streaks left in it. And again, you don't have to use a bubble removal machine for something like this, but I just think with the amount of detail in this mould, the last thing I want is bubbles everywhere to try and sort of ruin the effect. But let me know what you think this is going to turn out like. As I say, it's my first time using this mould, first time painting chameleon powders onto a mould as well, so I don't know if that will work either, and it's probably my first time using this metallic paste as well as the main base rather than black, but I think it's quite dark, so I still think we'll get a different effect by using it. And I've also got a dual head mixer from Resiners as well, but on small projects like this I just find it easier to use a popsicle stick to actually mix it, and less cleaning. And as you can see, there's loads of bubbles going into that resin as well, which I'm not too bothered about because I've got the bubble removal machine. If I was doing this without a machine, I would probably be mixing it an awful lot slower to try and get less bubbles in there. But what I have found with the bubble removal machine is literally put it in there for 5 minutes and all of your bubbles just disappear. And again, if you do want to get yourself one off from the Resiners website, I've got a discount code which is ccukresin, which will get you 15% off anything on that site. Any other discount codes I've got agreed with other companies as well, you'll find in the description, so why not support the channel and save yourself some money at the same time. And I'm pretty happy that that's mixed. I think it's crystal clear. There's still quite a lot of bubbles in it, as you can see, but they will all go. And in fact, I'm going to show it you in the bubble removal machine as well, so that you can see how effectively they work. Because since I've had one, I would not do any resin without one. I absolutely love it. And don't forget, guys, if you're liking the content on the channel, please like and subscribe. I'm aiming to try and do this on a more regular basis over the next 12 months, and the only way I can do that is with your support, liking and subscribing the channel. As it grows, we'll be able to do a lot more things, we'll be able to grow the community and do a lot more experiments. So please just take 2 seconds now, click that button just there and like and subscribe. And always remember, when you're mixing, just use a wipe your popsicle sticks, and then you can use them again next time. So, as you can see, full of bubbles, but nicely mixed. And what I'm going to do is put it in the bubble removal machine, and then I'll move you across there so that you can actually see the bubbles being taken out in front of your eyes. So this is the Airless Pro that I use from Resiners. And as you can see, the resin's in there. It's mixed, but it is absolutely full of bubbles at the moment. So all I'm going to do, push the power button and it will start it for 5 minutes. Simple as that. And they're not too noisy, they don't take up a lot of space, but they do remove those bubbles. So I am going to speed this up so you don't have to sit here for 5 minutes, but it's just to show you how many bubbles this thing actually removes. And when you first get one, it's bizarre because you think it's actually adding bubbles when it's not, it's removing them, because you see them all come to the surface. But as I say, I'm going to speed this up now, so the next 4 minutes will be 20 times speed, so it's not a 3-hour video. And the great thing with this upgraded model as well, just so you know, is it goes all the way up to 99 kps, which I think is the maximum bubbles that you can actually remove. The previous model I used to use only went up to 95, and this model as well, you can use it with thick, thin or medium viscosity resin as well. The old one didn't work very well with thick, but this will even work with silicone, so if you make your own molds, it's worth giving it a try. There we go, and as you can see, it's a lot clearer, but there's still those last few bubbles in there. Now watch what happens when I release the pressure. All you do is you pull out the silicone tab at the back, and that then releases the pressure from the machine, which is difficult with gloves on, but there we go. And boom, they're gone. That is crystal clear resin now. So now what I'm going to do is just mix in some of this resin paste that I've got, this metallic purple. So I'm just going to get you situated back on the stand, and then I'll show you how crystal clear that resin actually is. All I've got left on that is a couple of tiny bubbles on the surface, which I can pop with my lighter, but I'm not going to yet, because I might actually put this in again once I've added the metallic paste, because that's going to add quite a bit of air. So this one I actually got from Temu. I'm not sure if it's a particular brand or anything, but whenever you use these pastes, just make sure you give it a good mix as well, because they're very highly concentrated and they're almost dry, I think, sometimes, unless you mix them around. And I'm not going to need a lot, but basically once I've mixed it around the pot, whatever's left on the stick is what I'm going to use. So this is how much I've got on that stick. I'm going to try that first of all, because I do want this to be relatively opaque. And then I'm just going to mix it in with that resin. And look at that coming through already, that colour. Love that, and I do think it's a pretty good colour for a dragon. I'm just going to keep mixing it. And don't forget, because you're adding mica powders, because you're mixing it again, you're probably going to get a few tiny bubbles back in there. So it's whether or not I put it back through the mixer, which you can do, or whether I just go for it. I might just go for it actually, because there's not many bubbles being formed. Pretty happy with that colour. Reasonably opaque just from that tiny bit I used. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. I don't think it needs to go through again. And then the fun bit, I suppose, pouring this mould. And I've never done this before with this mould, so I want to try and make sure that it gets into all of those tiny gaps. So I suppose I'm going to start up here. But I want to make sure that literally every part of this mould gets covered. And then I'm going to want to make sure that any air bubbles in there come out, hopefully. And hopefully the mica powder should stay on the mould where we put it. So I'm going to get it about 3/4 of the way full, which I think is about there. And then just give my pot a bit of a wipe to stop any spillages. And then what I'm going to do is just gently move the mould around, squidge it together to try and get any of those air bubbles that might form in those little details out, but also to make sure, hopefully, that it's getting into all those little details in the mould. So just pressing it around like so, especially focused on the head because I think there's quite a bit of detail there. And then I'm gonna drop it, so again any bubbles hopefully will come loose. Then I'm just going to whack it with my lighter, any of those bubbles that I can see that have come up to the surface. Hopefully it gets rid of them. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is fill it to the top. And as I say, it's my first time using this mould, so I'm just hoping I got my measurements right. Again, top tip, if you don't know how much resin you're going to need, is just get your mould, fill it with water, and then that will tell you exactly how much resin you're going to need. And always try and do it on a level surface as well, guys, because otherwise it will overflow in certain areas. And I always like to slightly overfill moulds like this as well. But I think, actually, I said it was 3.5, I think it is actually 4. This dragon mould. Because it is taking all of this 4 ounces by the looks of things. But I do want to make sure that I'm not missing any details, so I'd rather overfill than underfill. And I think that is about as much as I can get in without it overflowing. And then it's just going to be a case of leaving it about 24 hours before we demould. As you can see, it's slightly an unlevel mould because this side looks like it's overflowing. The head looks like it could still fit a little bit more in, but I don't want to overdo it, otherwise we will get overflowing resin. So that's as far as I think I can risk it. And then just going over the surface again, getting rid of any bubbles with this lighter. Trying not to get them old because I don't want to burn it, but I also don't want those bubbles. And then all I'm going to do now is just leave it as it is for about 10 minutes. If any more bubbles come up, get them with the torch, like that. And then leave it for 24 hours, and then tomorrow we'll demold and see what it looks like. Good morning, and we're back, and it's time for demold. And I think I've looked back through my previous videos, but I think this is probably the first project where I've not had any spare resin, so I've not got any smaller bits to demold. So we've just got this big piece to demold, and I am excited to see how it's come out because it's the first time I've used this mold, and obviously I want to see if we've got any cool effects. It feels cured. It's been about 20 or so hours, so definitely not sticky, and it feels cured. So I'm excited to see what, if any, effects we've got and if we've got any details. So let's go straight into it. I don't even know how to demold this. It's such a big chunky mold, but I'm just gonna try and loosen the bits around the sides. I think this is probably going to be the trickiest part to demold, but we will see. And then gonna see if we've got any effects from brushing on that additional chameleon powder, and if we've got any good effects. Oh, it's demolding pretty easy actually. So yeah, that came straight out, clean mold. That's what I like to see when I demold. And are we ready for this? The first little, hopefully a dragon anyway. And I did find, I think the mold is slightly uneven because it seemed to pull more on this side than in the head, but it's not too bad. It still worked, but I did notice that with this particular mold. Now what I might try and do next time if I do another one is just lean it up like that and see if that makes a difference. Didn't go over the edge or anything, and hasn't affected it, but let's have a look. Wow, that is gorgeous. Just those details. And I was right, there's actually 3 feet on it. So, and it hasn't come out in all of them, but look at that. It is absolutely stunning. And I love the way that I've got those sort of whitish bits all the way along the spine where I brushed in the white sort of mica powders, and I just love the effect. The slightly different colours on the head and the wings. Now what I'm probably going to try and do if I do this mould again is find a way to put the eyes in, a bit like I do with the frogs, because I think it will add a lot more depth to the piece. But I'm loving that scale effect. And as I say, this is where I brushed on the different coloured chameleon powders, and it really has, for me, enhanced it and just added that extra bit of detail. But let me know what you think, guys, in comments. I would class this as a success. I think it's come out really well, especially using that purple as well. I think it's quite a good natural colour for the dragon. And then where I've brushed on the extra mica powders with that alcohol, it's given it a real shine and a real effect. And yeah, I really like this piece, so I can see me doing a few more dragons, shall we say. But yeah, look at that texture as well for those scales all the way around, fully cured. I think he's been a success. So I'm gonna get you a few close-up shots as well, so wait for that till the end. And apart from that, if you've liked the project, please like and subscribe to the channel. Makes a huge difference to the algorithm, and hopefully YouTube will push it out more, and that will mean that the channel can grow more. But yeah, really like that. For the first time using this mold, I think I've got a great effect there. And as I say, the key will be for me is next time I do it, I've got to find a way to put real eyes in there, because I think that will really enhance it. But loving the different tones with those different chameleon powders that we brushed on. And you can see the body is pretty much that pinkish chameleon powder that we did. The spine and the horns, I suppose you'd call them, are sort of tinted with that olive chameleon powder, or what to me looks whitey green. And then we've got the real blueness on the wings and on the head. So came out really well, really happy with that. So once again, if you're liking the content, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.